Hey guys, it's Tim Miller from the Bulwark. We had a new story just drop at Wired. It's a headline: Elon Musk takeover is being aided by a Trumpworld power couple. It's Stephen and Katie Miller. Stephen Miller is the quote prime minister, sources say, and his wife is the DOGE comms guru, and they are liaising between the White House and everybody else in Republican Washington. The man behind the story is Jake Lahut of Wired, and I got him here right now. I wanted to talk to him about that. So, I mean, in case people weren't concerned enough about what's happening, Prime Minister Stephen Miller is not exactly, bringing a lot of calm.
No, it's intended as a reassuring message internally, but
Got it.
that it is not in reality. I mean, I learned a couple new things reporting on this story. One of them is that Katie Miller actually was detailed to do comms for Elon prior to the transition. And this is according to a White House official. She also was detailed, I believe there was a Political Pro story on it at the time, to do RFK Jr.'s flacking
Yeah.
in some capacity. But this, I don't think, was previously known. I also learned that, one, there's kind of a two-way street, if you will, with her role on the comm side of Doge. And it is, I think the relationship between Steven and Elon was understood to be at least, chummy beforehand. But this is a little different when it comes to Katie. So she not only is relaying the Doge, message of the day, and to the extent they can provide accurate updates on what they're doing, but she's also channeling requests, traffic issues back to Musk when necessary. And, that would involve more sensitive conversations and having to give the guy bad news. I don't know really what it looks like beyond that or what their social situation is, but we do have a source in the story who knows the couple personally, and he said if you can find out anything about Stephen Miller's social life, I don't want to know the answer.
Yeah, I don't want to know anything about Stephen Miller's social life either. I am intrigued, though, that I guess the dynamic that the story lays out, to just kind of sum it up, is
Mm-hmm.
that, there are a lot of Republicans on Capitol Hill and throughout the government who, like, directionally like Elon, like the fact that he wants to break things
Yeah,
up, like the fact that
totally.
he's dark MAGA, right? Like, but I have some like concerns about the way that he's going about it, right? Because they're getting the phone calls, like they're hearing from constituents, like, what the
Yes.
fuck? Like, I got fired,
Yes.
or my friend got fired, or like I got this project got cut, and Elon doesn't really know how government works. I mean, I had a
No.
source tell me that Elon did not know that there were two different houses of Congress until like relatively recently. I don't know whether that's true or a joke. I'm not
Oh,
a real reporter like you, but
oi,
like
oi, oi,
Elon
oi. But
doesn't
yeah, would
know.
not be great.
He doesn't know his ass from his elbow about the government is the point.
Definitely,
And
I think falls squarely under the description of like a Johnny come lately with
yeah, sure.
a lot
And
of this.
so yeah, and so I guess these people, the direction like Elon, that have concerns about the execution, the story indicates that the Trump world is saying, okay, don't worry, you can talk to Stephen. Stephen Miller is going to manage this tiger.
Yes. And it gets tricky with like, okay, are they there in like a guardrail capacity? And, there are some sources who told me about, trying to keep Elon sort of coloring within the lines and all these kind of euphemisms for like, I don't know, not breaking the law, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the thing that is a little deeper here is just the level of rapport and adding to that some tensions with I got to give a shout out to Josh Dawsey and co. I think Ryan Barber was also on that byline where they had a story about Katie Miller being on the payroll at P2 Public Affairs, which you and some other sickos watching this or
Yeah.
listening to this might be aware of, which is basically a DeSantis aligned firm, kind of became
Yeah.
the home for the DeSantis alumni. So was a huge get for them, but also clearly is a sign of the DeSantis world influence getting just having more sway around Elon, and that the linchpin of all this is this couple.
I guess my question is like, and it doesn't really seem like Stephen Miller and Katie are the types of people that could control Elon or that they are socially aligned. I mean, Stephen is, an extreme ideologue, far
Uh,
right ideologue who like worked for Jeff Sessions and like came out of that world, and like he doesn't know tech people. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't rub
Mm-hmm.
elbows, so he doesn't hang out with Grimes. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's
Grimes. No,
hard
that he
to
is not.
right. So it's hard to kind of see. Like to me, this seems like a little bit of cope. I'm wondering if like, did you get any sense in the
Mm.
reporting that like Steven is actually positively influencing or reining in Elon at all? Like I find that
I
hard to
think it's more
imagine.
of an implementing. I
Got
think it's more that I can't believe this reference survived in the story, but I live
it.
vibe with these editors at Wired so hard and they kept it, which was we made a Pet Shop Boys reference
Okay.
to the song Opportunities, where
Yeah.
there's the whole, you've got the brawn, I got the brains. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what's going on here with Stephen and Katie having a better knowledge of the federal apparatus than Elon, at the very least, came in with, right? I mean, we can
Sure.
maybe say he's a really fast learner, or put that aside. And then Elon is kind of the brawn with this relentless drive to spread this farther, have the message get out in front, and the Trump advisors not necessarily knowing what's going on, just like the rest of us. So for all that whole problem is supposed to basically come down to Stephen and Katie Miller, and that Katie, who again she's a special government employee, she's not officially in the White House. While Stephen's title is on paper deputy chief of
Is
staff, but
Elon officially in the White House?
oh my God,
Vulcan, yeah.
they go so back and forth about this. They're like,
Yeah.
we're all in the White House, but like, obviously there's the DOGE administrator on paper. It's
Yeah.
just like, dude.
To this point, I had a back and forth with Katie on X, where there's a story the guys at 404 Media broke about how the Doge employees weren't going to use Slack anymore because the Slacks were foiable, essentially, right? And they wanted to move Doge under Executive Office of the President, where there's more latitude. And I pointed out that this was maybe kind of similar to the concerns people had about the Hillary Clinton private server that she was using to avoid FOIA. That was this massive front page scandal. And Katie replied that there are no conspiracies or private server. And I was like, well, but are you guys then being transparent about all your communications? Because it seems not to me. And if Katie Miller is not a full-time government employee, she is not covered under certain transparency laws. Elon is obviously trying to avert some of this. Like, do you get a sense for, like, I mean, I guess it seems obvious that these guys are doing some things to try to avoid having to be FOIA'd. Like, people are concerned about, like, the Elon being uncontrollable here, and like how much, or are people kind of enjoying the trauma that he's causing?
I mean, like the people who talked to me for this story, to your point earlier, are all ostensibly on board with like the general policy objectives of DOGE. And, there's totally an alignment here with like DOGE's targets being things that Stephen Miller is very much not a fan of,
Right,
based on his public statements about civil servants and, foreign aid and all that. I still think that largely everyone's like, this is what it's going to be for a while. Right. There are very few, if any, of my sources now who think this is going to blow up imminently. I think that was a little more mixed, and it's weirdly, as the PR disaster has gotten worse, it's kind of consolidated, or they're more skittish.
It's Trump. Trump keeps signaling that as long as Trump is happy with it, then there's no reason to think that there is going to be any sort of blow up internally, and like none of that, and that isn't going to change until the matters on the ground change.
Totally.
All right. Well, what any other gossip around?
I will say the one thing that they do get into, because this is a weird recurring thing. They talk about Elon like a gifted child, and but it's always like when they throw around a lot of ages. A lot of them are like 11 and 12, notably like preteen years is how they refer to. So I think that was the wording we settled on in the story. And he's held to a different standard for a couple of reasons. I mean, still with all those like caveats they'll throw out, they're kind of like, okay, brass tacks, one big vulnerability here. And that is, even though Trump is thin-skinned when important people kind of at a certain level speak ill of him, right?
Yeah.
The Trumpworld atmosphere is so, hyper macho, right? All this stuff that you talk about in your show. Elon caring what like random people think of him, anons on Twitter, just that kind of thing. there's a consensus building based on the people I've talked to that that's a vulnerability in Trump world. That the worry is Elon's skin is a little too thin. He may be either enjoying or paying so much attention to his, on-camera appearances. I mean, again, the optics yesterday, just like the last time, when he was in the Oval, like standing the whole time, stuff like that. Like they pick up on that and they talk about that with me.
Yeah.
But obviously everyone's like,
and he's not as good at Trump at all of that. Like he isn't.
No,
and my guess is that he's probably sensitive about that.
And that's something to look for in the story. Also, Wired.com. At least, the Trump people who are concerned that this is an optics issue and that there's still an off ramp to maybe, throw Elon under the bus and have him take the flak for it. There's this tension we get at in the story, which is basically that Stephen Miller is sort of, convenient, even though he's done appearances in the press and stuff. A number of Trump advisors would prefer Elon to stay getting the majority of this heat because, in their view, even though he's not as smooth as Trump on camera, to your point, he's better at grabbing attention. He clearly is able to set the attentional agenda, and
he's a heat shield.
A similar way compared to Stephen Miller, who is maybe not, the most,
not exactly like he's super dynamic on TV either. It's not like the backup option is like George Clooney.
He exudes a certain kind of charisma, but
a certain kind of charisma, negative, I think, is the kind that you're looking for. Thank you so much, Jake. Keep checking in with us on your stories.
Absolutely.
Everybody else, go check out his story at Wired about how an alarming phrase, the Prime Minister, Stephen Miller, and his relationship with Elon Musk. We'll keep you guys posted as new stuff breaks. Subscribe to the feed. We'll see y'all soon. Hey, YouTube fam, if you want to support the Bulwark, the best way to do it is by becoming a YouTube Bulwark Plus member. The Bulwark is truly independent. We have no corporate overlords. We're not settling any dumb lawsuits with Trump. By joining, you help support our work, and you can get a bunch of perks right here on this platform. Ad-free content, bonus videos, live streams, and some emojis of me, which I guess some people want. So come join, come hang out, become a Bulwark YouTube Plus member, and I'll be seeing you in the comments. So behave.